Today I just wanted to address all the new nurses out there who might be feeling like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? This is going to be the second video in our break room chats series where we just talk about stuff that's like not always the most fun to talk about, but you would talk about it with your friends in the break room, sitting there complaining about it or just being like, do you feel like this too? Because friends, we all have felt like that, and it's good to talk about it. So if you're a new nurse and you're kind of like, what on earth is happening in my life right now? This is not how I really thought it would go. Go grab yourself something to drink, come back and sit down, and we'll just have a nice little chat. Sound good? All right, perfect. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and oodles of time ago, I was a brand new baby nurse, and I was also shocked and confused, honestly, by the transition that was so different than what I thought it would be. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. This isn't in any way to scare you or make you not want to go into nursing as a field. I absolutely loved my experience. I worked at the bedside for 6 years before I transitioned into my family nurse practitioner role, and I loved it after that first 6 months. So it's just to kind of encourage you and make you feel less alone if you're feeling all the feels, and to know that, hey, it does get better, because I promise it will. So stick around and let's chat for a wee bit. So I thought we'd start by I'll share my experience, and you guys throughout this, just feel free to share your experience as a new nurse down in the comments. I feel like this isn't something we talk about a lot. You know, nursing school makes you so hyped to get out there and graduate, and you're so pumped when you do, but they don't really talk about that first year, specifically the first 6 months of being a brand new nurse. That is just so hard, and it blew me away. It blew all of my friends away. I can't tell you how many times I have had this exact conversation sitting in a break room somewhere with some super emotional and upset brand new nurse who's just like, this is not what I thought it was gonna be. This is a rough transition. I was not prepared to feel like this. So if you're feeling like that, let's just come and sit, and I want you to just feel like you know you're not alone and that it will get better. All right, so first, real quick, just my experience being a brand new nurse. So I graduated from an accelerated BSN program feeling pretty confident. I felt my school had prepared me really well. I had loved my clinical experience, and clinical had kind of built up in me this confidence of like, oh, I can do this. Like, I'm doing all this stuff, what I thought was independently. Now I look back, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty like guided obviously by my preceptors. And I felt like when I graduated, I was just like, I can do this. This is gonna be great. And I was so excited to start my career as a nurse. I got my first job on an adult med-surg GI liver kidney failure-ish floor. I was working full-time, night shifts, 8-hour shifts. So guys, I was there all the time. And honestly, within being on the floor for like 3 days, I was just so overwhelmed. All of that confidence and like, woo, I got this. This is going to be the greatest thing left within like the first 3 days. I had my first patient pass away the first day I was on, like I was still on orientation, but the very first day someone passed away like in front of my eyes very suddenly and unexpectedly. So that was like the first shocking thing that was just like, what on earth is happening? The second thing was all of a sudden the realization that there's going to be 5 people that like I am responsible for, and they're all pretty sick, and you're expected to know everything about all of them. That was overwhelming. The schedule was really overwhelming for me. Nights at first was not easy for me, and I think it depends on like eves or days, whatever schedule you're on, it just takes a little bit of adjusting to get into that weird, not normal schedule. And whether you're 12 hours, 8 hours, whatever it is, it's a weird different schedule from the rest of the world that you're used to. You know, you're working like tons of days in a row, and then you have like one weird one off when none of your friends are off, or your spouse, your boyfriend, whoever, your best friend isn't off on that same day. You're working holidays. I feel like one of the things I always say is, you know, when I heard nights, weekends, and holidays in nursing school, I was like, oh yeah, nights, weekends, and holidays. But nights, weekends, and holidays, when you're doing it, is hard, because that's when you want to be with all your people. That's when everyone else is doing stuff. That was a huge adjustment. The other big adjustment was just feeling like I didn't know anything. You know, I left school feeling pretty confident that like I knew what I was doing, only to get thrown into my first job and realize I have no idea what I'm doing. And not that I couldn't learn, because I was learning every day, but it is exhausting to not know anything in every aspect of your new job. You don't really know what you're looking for in the beginning, even to assess like, is this right? Like, is something wrong here? Is this normal? So you don't really know what you're even looking for. 2, you don't really know how to fix it once you've identified like, okay, yes, this is abnormal. I need to intervene and fix it. You don't know what to ask for. You don't know how to page. You don't know how to chart. You don't know where to get the medicine from. You don't know where to even get the dumb ice pack. Like, what part of the equipment room are the ice packs in? Like, the littlest things. And then they just stack onto each other, the level of complexity, you know? I just remember being so frustrated. I was like, I just want to give this patient her Lasix, and she wants it with Sprite. I don't know where the Sprite is. I don't know where the cups are. I don't know how to chart this. I don't know if the Lasix is in her med cupboard, and if it's not in her med cupboard, where do I find it? Is it in the Pyxis? Is pharmacy holding it hostage? What do I do if I can't find it? What do I do? Like, maybe I shouldn't give this to her. Should I give it to her? Look at your vital signs. Ooh, her blood pressure is a little bit low. I wonder if I should page and ask if they actually want me to give like all of that for one simple task. And if you're new, you totally know what I mean. Like, the simplest task just takes so long because everything is new. And that was just so overwhelming. And the not knowing everything is just exhausting. It's exciting that you're learning new stuff, and you absolutely learn new stuff every day, but it's exhausting to get there and to have that be your every single day. And obviously that's gonna change. Slowly you're gonna learn those skills. You're not gonna have to think 8 million times, where do I find the Lasix? Where do I find this? You know, is this blood pressure okay for this person? How do I do all these things? That's gonna all come to you and be second nature, but it's just gonna take a little bit of time to get there. My final thing from my experiences, guys, I cried every day. I dreaded going to work. And that shocked me the most because this was something, a career that I was so excited for. You know, I was pumped. I was ready to go like be super nurse and take on the world. And this is what I felt like I was supposed to be doing. And then I hated it. And I cried every single day before I went into work. The other people that I got hired with were crying every single day before we got into work. I dreaded it all day. I didn't like it. And I remember, fortunately, there was a nurse on the unit who had been there about a year longer than me. And she pulled me aside one day because I came in and you could just tell, like, I was just like overwhelmed, visibly upset. And she pulled me and she's like, what's going on? And had this conversation pretty much where she was like, what's going on? And I just like broke down and was like a blubbering, like, I hate this. This is the worst. Like, I thought this was gonna be so much better. I feel so dumb. Like, what have I got myself into? And she was so, and I was ready to like quit, guys. Like, I was ready to just be like, I'm done. Like, I'm gonna go back and be a waitress again because I was way happier then than I am right now. She's like, do me a favor. We've all been there. We've all felt like this. Give it 6 months. And if in 6 months you still hate it just this month, okay, like, yeah, go and find a new job. Maybe this isn't right for you, but give it 6 months and see if you change your mind. And I remember just being like, no one has ever felt like this. And you know, I'm the only one who's hated it this month, and there is no way that in 5 months I will be walking around feeling more confident, like, oh, okay, I can do this. And guys, this girl, thank goodness for her, because I'm so glad she sat me down and told me that, because I remember even at 5 months, I was giving her report one morning and she was taking over for me and she was like, hey, she was like, you did that like really well. You seem to like be a lot more comfortable. Like, are you glad you stayed? And this had been at like the 5-ish, 6 month mark. And I was like, I am so glad I stayed. And I am so glad that we had that conversation back then, because I think I would have left. And honestly, at that point, and at this point, I now loved it. I was starting to feel a lot more confident. I knew how to do things. Some things were on autopilot. I was still like learning a lot every day, obviously, but because I feel like that whole learning curve in that first like year, even 2 years of nursing is steep, friends, but the 6 month is like this. So that would be my huge encouragement to you, that if you're sitting there and you're having any of those feels, I just want you to know that you are so not alone. So many other people that I've now talked to over the years, you know, we were all like, that first few months was just so brutal. And you don't realize that the other people that are wandering around doing, like, looking like cool as a cucumber now, doing all the things at the same time, that they at once had the inner panic, just like white-faced panic that you had, but they had just kind of like, they had moved through it. They had gone through it and they were now better. And I think that's huge. So guys, if you are a brand new nurse and you are just like, what have I gotten myself into? Hang in there. Give it 6 months. That would be my biggest piece of encouragement, would just be give it 6 months to settle in. That transition is really hard because, like I said, you're just going and you're learning so many new things. You might have felt really confident leaving nursing school like I did and just felt like you're gonna go conquer the world, and the world just comes and it's like, boom, like, no, I'm gonna conquer you. But it does get better. I promise it gets better. For many, many years after that, I did not cry going into work. I did cry. Actually, I take that back. I cried when I had to work holidays until the bitter end. But on normal days, I didn't cry. I learned to cope with difficult patient situations that in the beginning just made me so heart-wrenchingly sad, like patient death. And I think we'll talk about that at a whole different time, kind of like how I've dealt with that and some tips for you. But just know that that will get better. You don't get numb to it, but I think you learn to process it a lot better. And all the emotions that come with the job, it just gets easier. You get better at it. It will get easier. Hang in there. Give it 6 months. And if at 6 months you're just like, ugh, then reconsider. Like maybe a different unit would be a better fit. Or maybe this specific type of nursing isn't for you. And if this hasn't been your experience at all, wonderful. I don't think everyone experiences. I would just say that a large chunk of people probably do experience some kind of like new nurse blues where you're just like, what? This is very different than maybe you thought it would be. But just hold on to that it will get better. I promise it will get better. Even if it doesn't end up being like your dream floor and everything you thought it would be, that can be changed. Just give yourself a little bit of time to get there. So that was kind of my experience with it. I'm interested to kind of know your experiences you've had with it down below. That way other people can look through all the comments and be like, okay, yeah, like I can tell you till my face is blue that you're not alone, that other people are feeling this, but it's helpful sometimes to see other people who are like, hey, I totally felt like that when I was brand new, or hey, I'm brand new right now, and like that is me to a T. So be sure to go down in the comments and just let us know what your experience as a new nurse was or is, or if you're still in school, you can read through it so that if you end up kind of running into this, that it's okay, it will get better. I promise. I absolutely loved my experience as a bedside nurse and wouldn't trade it for anything. So I'm so glad I stuck it out and listened to that girl who took a few minutes to calm down a very emotional little Liz who was having a little bit of a moment. And it's okay to have your moments, guys. Have your moments, cry. I had a very honest conversation with my husband and my family, and I was like, I hate this. Like, I'm told it will get better, but like, you're gonna have to bear with me. And they did, fortunately, just like they just dealt with like all the emotions and were like, it's okay, loved me through it, and we got here. But have that conversation and be like, I'm gonna be a little bit of a train wreck for a little while, and I'm gonna need you to just like roll with it. Now let's talk about just some like basic tips, I guess, for kind of surviving this period. So I have a whole video on my tips for new nurses, which if you're a new nurse might be super helpful for you. So I will link it at the end of the video and down in the description box. But this is more for like coping with the new nurse blues if you're having those. One thing I think is so important is to still have something you do for you. I definitely kind of lost this in the middle of all that. So I stopped doing things that I liked. I used to exercise a lot and I let that go completely because I was like overwhelmed and busy. That was a huge mistake. Once I started picking that up again and doing other things outside in life that I enjoyed, it wasn't all about work. And I remembered, you know, there's other things to do besides dreading work. There's like the activities that I enjoy doing. That's huge. And the second would just be very aware of your mental health throughout all of this. I think honestly for me, I'm sure I was depressed during this period. Looking back, I'm like, I had like classic depression and I was very much in denial about it, but I probably would have really benefited from either going to some kind of therapy, going on some kind of medication, just something to kind of get you through that period. And it's something I've seen a lot of other nurses go through, and I've encouraged some along the way to just be like, hey, just maybe for a short term, like anything you can do to improve your mental health. And it doesn't have to be therapy, it doesn't have to be medication, whatever you can do, but like exercise, eating well, all of that to kind of like help your mood. Talking with other people just about how challenging this experience is. Having that support system is huge. So just be aware of your mental health in all of this, because this is a time of huge transition and your mental health can really take a toll, and that doesn't make anything better. I know I wish I had could go back and be like, hey, you need to go get some help. sort this stuff out, and it's going to be like okay eventually, but I think I would have had a much easier transition if I had addressed my mental health and recognized like, yeah, I probably have some depression and anxiety surrounding all of this that I just didn't address, and that's not awesome. So going for it, just like be aware of that in yourself. You know you the best, obviously. But if you feel like it's something that you're noticing, or your partner's noticing, or your mom, your dad, your friends, your best friend comes to you and she's like, there is something going on, to go talk to primary care about it. You know, they might have something that can help you or give you some tips, something to just kind of work through it. I think there's just such a stigma around it. Oh, that just makes me so sad, because I've heard so many people be like, hey, like, you know, I went to therapy for a few months and it really helped change my perspective on this whole transition period. Or some people were like, I started this anti-anxiety medicine and, you know, I only had to take it for like 6 to 9 months during this rough year, but it changed my life. So I would hate for any of you to be in that situation where you feel kind of like I did, where I was like, I can deal with this on my own, when it could be super helpful to go and just raise the topic and just see what your options are. So just throwing that out there, because you're gonna perform so much better if your mind is in a better, stable, okay place to handle all of this new stuff going on. The third thing I wanna talk about is just, I don't want you to feel like this is the wrong career for you if you're going through all of this. Honestly, like I said, just give it time. I remember just feeling like this was the wrong thing for me, and I had chosen wrong, and I had done all this work to get here, and it was incorrect. And I would just encourage you to just sit. Like I said, just sit and mellow, marinate for 6 months, and then reevaluate the situation. Time is a great healer of this whole debacle, and it'll get better. And like I said, if it doesn't, there's different options. The fourth thing I think is so helpful is talking with your friends, with your peers, whoever you have that's kind of in the situation. So I did find talking to my husband was helpful. My mom's a nurse, so talking to her was kind of helpful. But the thing that was the most helpful were my friends who were going through it with me, and having them be like, yeah, this is like really hard for me too. Or my peers at work who were like, this is really rough. All the new people that were getting hired. And then having someone who maybe has been there for a little bit longer, also like that girl that talked to me, was so helpful, because it shows you kind of the end point. You know, like, you will get through this, this will get better. There's the goal. So I think talking about it and not being afraid to talk about it is huge, because chances are you're sitting there feeling like, I don't want to talk about it because I'm the only one that feels like this, that I'm drowning. And if I mention it to anyone else, they're going to be like, you're a bad nurse, you chose the wrong thing. But I can guarantee you, if you have the courage to open up and have that conversation, that person is probably going to be like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. And it's just something we don't talk about in nursing. Honestly, we just don't, because we want to seem like this is the greatest thing. I love my job, because that's what everyone does, is they portray to the world like, I love my job. Being a nurse has fulfilled every tiny crevice and niche of my body's existence, and like, I love it with all I am. When in reality, like, it takes a little bit to get to the point where you're like, yeah, I love my job, because you don't start out that way, really. Which kind of leads me into the next one, which, like, if you end up, say you're at this job and it's been 6 months and you've mellowed in it and you're like, yes, I can see myself loving this career, but maybe not this job. Depending on when your contract is, know that too. Like, know that this might not be the unit for you. The unit I started on was not the unit for my soul. Like, that was also an encouraging thing to know, like, okay, at the end of my contract, I can leave. I can go to another unit that might sit with my soul better and really fulfill me. So even if you hit that 6 months and you're just like, I can see it, it's just not quite there. Think about maybe switching. What can your goals, like, long-term be to switch to another unit in a couple of months that might fill you up and make you feel a little bit happier to go to work? All right, I think I've rambled enough on this topic. I hope that you walked away not feeling like discouraged, like, what have I gotten myself into, but more like, either I've been there and you're right, it does get a lot better, or if you're in it right now, I hope it just encourages you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It will get better, I promise. Hang in there, it will be okay, okay? I promise. You got this, it will be okay. It might not be okay tomorrow, but it will be okay in 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, okay? Being a new nurse is really, really hard, so give yourself a break. Cut yourself some slack. If you're not getting everything done in life, at home, all over the place, it's okay. These are not the 6 months to go and train for like a marathon, or enter competitions for how beautiful you can make your kids' school lunches, or learn another language. Like, This is just to like survive, get through, take care of yourself, pop out at the end, and then you can do all of those crazy, ambitious, lovely things that you want to get back to. And like I said, I will leave my link to my video on all my tips for brand new nurses at the end of this video, and consider subscribing if you like videos like this or that and just want videos about being a nurse practitioner. I also have a weekly vlog where I just document my life as a brand new FNP because I'm going through that transition, which is also a doozy on that end, but is getting better. So all transitions are a little rough and they will get better, I promise. But I'd love to have you on my YouTube family. I also post over on Instagram a lot on my stories, just like documenting things I learn at clinic as a family nurse practitioner and what I see over there. Again, new nurses, hang in there. It will get better, I promise. You can do this. Every day will get a little bit better. Don't forget to go leave your stories of when it was you were a new nurse, or if you're a new nurse right now, just be like, I feel you, I'm there. We're all in this together. Leave those comments down below so everyone else can read them and feel a little bit less alone themselves. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I will see you again next time.